From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, the Vegabomber, PJ Dunn.
Welcome, everybody. Well, we are getting ready for the big weekend that is to be, which is next weekend, which is the 4th of July weekend. And so that kind of gives you an idea of the topic that we're going to talk about today. And so we will get into it here shortly, and that will be about Americana. So when you think about Americana, Johnny, what's one thing that says Americana to you?
In films, probably
Anything, just Americana, period.
Just Americana. Okay, so summertime and like music festivals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Kazak.
big for me.
Yes.
Americana?
Yeah.
God, good question. Probably rock and roll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that drags on in and of itself. It's
Yeah.
a genre created, so yeah.
Yeah, love it. I love it. For me, it's Americana besides just baseball and apple pie and all that stuff, because that's the season for all that. For me, it's more like it's pool season. It's time to get into the water. If you can get around water, especially here in Texas with as hot as it is.
Yes.
So as soon as we get in with all the spring and the craziness and possible hail and tornadoes, when it comes to summer, I start thinking about how Americana is this to be able to sit by a pool and drink your favorite drink and wear some crazy looking Speedos that are either too long or too short, and then checking out the ladies trying to be cool and sucking in your stomach, trying to pretend like you've been working out all spring and everything just for summer. So I don't know, it seems like that's one of those things. So this is episode 12. This is season 3 of the Fulfillment Show, and we are the Fulfillment crew. And sitting to my right is John E Flix.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, and the big voice behind the camera that can be in front of your camera at any time he wants to. It is Kazak.
Greetings and salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com.
That's right. So today we talked a little bit about Americana. That will be our topic that we will dive into. But first, so you can get a good sense of what we watch, whether it's crazy or not, we're going to jump into our segment called Just Seen It. Now, if you're new here and you're here for the first time, go ahead and subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that little bell button once you see this on the replay on YouTube, which will be airing Monday. But we're here every second and fourth Sunday giving you fulfillment, which is that ability for you to see a film or a series and feel satisfied. When you're fulfilled, it's a great thing, and we like to talk about it. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the Just Seen It, and the film that I watch actually is a docuseries, and it actually kind of fits with Americana here. And it's on Netflix. It just came out recently here, I think about a month and a half ago, and it's called This Is Pop. Now, this is interesting because what they're saying is what makes a pop record? What makes it popular? What's the architect behind it? What do you do? Is there a certain formula to it? And then it covers it through 8 episodes that are 44 minutes, and they hit all the different genres. So it's not just all the pop from the British UK invasion that happened back in the 70s. It's not just the pop of just maybe Michael Jackson, but this talks about how, I love it, and like episode 1 is talking about Boyz II Men. Mm-hmm. So it talks about how boy bands got popular and where they came from. And so before you get to, Backstreet Boys and all that, you had Boyz II Men, but before you had Boyz II Men, you had New Edition, right? And so it talks about the phenomena of how that went pop. So I thought this is good because this isn't just, here's the top 10 pop songs ever, we're going to look at them. No, it broke down by the genre, which made it interesting. Episode 2 was very interesting because it talks about where do most of the pop hits come from. And I bet you probably no one here can guess where they come from. Would anybody like to try to guess where the pop hits come from? Like what country?
Korea.
That's not bad though. Sweden. Every one of the big pop hits, Ace of Base, ABBA, Roxette, and then they sent their producers to pick up American artists. So now Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears. So they have had the largest compendium of building pop songs. The Swedish people know how to do it, and so it broke it down because I would have never guessed. I would have thought it has to be America or somewhere, but not Sweden. But in Sweden,
the Peoria of the
right,
subcontinent,
right. And what they said is that you wouldn't know it because the Swedes don't like to brag about stuff. They just do stuff and they continue to do it, and they just feel it like it's a cultural thing, not to go out and be like talking about what you do. You just do it. And so this is what they were doing. And so it shows how they were just sitting in just a dark little room just saying, what's a pop hit? And they defined it by melody. Like if you notice, all the famous pop songs have a very strong melody, one that you can hum many times, right? That's many hums there from those of you watching at home. So it's this idea that how do I take a calculated, if you will, but universal melody that just once you hear it once, you just kind of pay attention to it, even if you don't like the bands Ace of Base, ABBA, or any of those, because you think they're pretty cheesy. Because sometimes something that's super pop, people go, oh, well, I don't like that. It's too milquetoast. It's not enough, right? But you notice all the big pop singers, that's what they got into, and then later on they end up trying to become more dangerous, because once you get the pop title, you're seen as squeaky clean bubblegum pop, soda machine friendly type stuff. And so there's that piece that talks about it. It even goes into country and talks about how country was just like, well, country music. But Dolly Parton she said, well, why should we just be confined to that? Why couldn't country music also be popular as country music? And the big fight for her to just want to go pop, the whole country Western vibe was saying, that's not who we are. We're the everyday man kind of background, no frills, none of these thrills. It's just, we're telling just good old stories. And if you play it backwards, you can get everything back, right? On a country record. So if you lose your house, your dog, and your car, just play the record backwards and you get it all back, right? Is the old joke. So there's that whole tension there in country music about, if you go pop there, they're like, oh, well, that ain't country music. But who would say Dolly Parton's not country music? Who'd say that Waylon Jennings is not, right? So if something happens to go pop, does that make it not, right? And then should music be even categorized from the idea of whether it pops or not? Or is it, so it's very smartly done for something that sounds like it'd be very universal and popish. They really break it down and say, what is it? And so I've only watched just the first 3 episodes. I still got the 5 others, but I can't wait just to see what they're going to say about the British invasion, and then the whole techno invasion of just synth sounds over regular traditional musicians. But to me, This Is Pop just recently came out. It's on Netflix. If you're a music fan, you can love this. If you love history, it's getting into some history about these different countries and how they do it. And then I think if you just like to see something where you love seeing the behind the scenes, like how something gets made, then you will love This Is Pop. So I thought that was great. What have you been watching, Johnny?
Well, I have been watching Hunters, and I finally finished it, the 10th episode last night. That was the end of the season. I don't know. I haven't dug enough into it to know if there's going to be a second season or not. Mm-hmm. Amazon, please let there be a second season. This was a real surprise for me. I didn't go into watching this with really any expectations. I'm generally not a fan of Pacino. Mm-hmm. He really surprised me. Okay. The show surprised me. It's a great show. So what's it about? Hunters is set in 1977 in the United States, and it revolves around this young man who's Jewish. He witnesses his grandmother being killed by a man in a mask, and he isn't getting any help from the cops. So he discovers that this guy that killed his grandmother is a Nazi that came over from Germany, and he ends up working with the team that his grandmother was on, hunting down Nazis. And at the same time, you've got a black FBI agent, a woman, who is now investigating these murders, and starts to discover that they're Nazis that were brought over by the U.S. government, given new identities, working for NASA and throughout the government. And so you've got these parallel interests. The FBI agent wants to stop the murders, but at the same time, she ends up getting drawn into this whole project at the same time. It's phenomenal. So you don't just have a bunch of New York Jews working together. They've brought in this whole team of people. So there's this very young black female that's on the team, and an Asian man who was in the army fighting in Vietnam, and you get all these different perspectives. What I would really like to see in the second season, though, is they just barely dug into some of the storylines of some of these peripheral characters on the team. I'd really like to see those get developed more in a second season, because it's compelling.
Wow.
Really nice twist at the end of the season in the 10th episode. Really setting this young man up very well. He's kind of like a Jewish Luke Skywalker, you know?
Okay.
So it's
Interesting.
pretty cool. It's really cool. You get all sorts of elements, and tying in with today's topic even, you know? He's a young kid or young man in 77, and he and his friends are into comic books and all the typical things that young men are into in the summertime, you know, just like you're talking about. So it's a pretty cool show, and you don't get any of the Stranger Things type nostalgia throwbacks,
Product placements,
you know,
and stuff. Yeah,
you don't get any of that. It's pure story, and it's awesome.
excellent.
Definitely watch it, please.
Okay, that sounds like a strong recommendation for y'all out there. Hope y'all are writing this down. Kazak, what have you seen?
All right, so I am coming in to the last parts of season 3 of The Last Drive-In on Shudder. I know I've talked about Shudder endlessly on this show, but I want to go ahead and
At least once or twice.
But I want to go ahead and bring in this one because, again, like I said, it's Joe Bob Briggs back for another season of in-depth dives into horror films. You're getting some really good guests this season, because you're getting in-depth interviews with Roger Corman, with Clint Howard, with
nice.
Bruce Campbell, with Jeffrey Combs, guys who have been there and seen it. What you're getting is not only an in-depth appreciation of the film, but you're also getting, like I said, some films that you've never seen in this country, or you're getting films that you haven't seen in a really long time and getting them to revisit. You're getting in-depth looks at stuff like Train to Busan. You're also getting stuff like the original Little Shop of Horrors. You're getting Evil Speak, which was a phenomenal find, but you're also getting really, really terrible films. Films I can't stand. I literally, with this season, watched the worst film I've ever seen on this show. It's a film called Things, and I promise you, I can't do it justice other than the fact that I saw this movie and went, my God, this is what they use for brainwashing techniques during Scientology sessions. It's just the worst film I've ever seen.
Wow.
I'm sorry to lose our Scientology audience, but dear God, it's just the worst thing I've ever seen. But again, it was a night celebrating VHS, like those direct to video VHS releases that, you know, they're terrible, they're badly cut, they're poorly edited, but they're worth celebrating because they're independent films, they're independent horror films, guys going out and making films. Doing, you know, taking a video camera and just making a film and getting it out there, and it's kind of a wonderful ode to, you know, just the power of filmmaking.
Yes.
But you're getting some really, really good stuff in there this season. If you like Mandy, that's entirely on you, but because it's definitely not my cup of tea. But still, like I said, it's a film that I didn't want to watch again, but I'll watch it again to get more in-depth information with Joe Bob Briggs, one of the preeminent film critics of our time, in the fact, like I said, he's a guy who celebrates these movies that wouldn't get celebrated otherwise. You're getting really good insight. You're getting it from a guy who really appreciates them and has appreciated these kind of films for years. And of course, you're getting just this year, you're getting some really, really good in-depth interviews on films that, you know, were unusual and fun. So, like I said, I'll go back and go check out all 10 episodes of The Last Drive-In, because I promise you it's worth your time.
Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like a solid lineup. So hopefully you at home that are watching this, again, if this rings true to you at all, or your ears are really ringing right now, and this is great, go ahead and watch these. We are telling you this because we've watched them and suffered through them, or we enjoyed our way through them. And so
God, I suffered through things.
So now let's get to that topic that everybody's probably here paying attention to. This is where we start talking about Americana. So when you think about Americana, what we're really talking about are things that seem to be, whether it's folklore, whether it's music, whether it's but it's things that kind of point back to, in terms of symbolism or just in its own face, American culture in a lot of ways, and what seems to be the popular thing in American culture that just seems like when people see it, they go, that's definitely American, right? So when you see an American car, when you see an old fastback Ford Mustang, you go, that's Americana, because that muscle car was built here, baby. I'm just telling you now. You can have your Ferrari, you can have your Lamborghini, you can have your Lexus, but the muscle car, baby. So that's a piece of Americana and what it meant to be able to drive on a highway in Route 66 in a convertible. It's Americana, baby, right? So there's so many things, and you, viewer, also have some things that mean Americana to you. So we're going to look at that in terms of film. We're going to look at 3 films that we thought hit that Americana thing great, and then miss one where it's a film that really missed the Americana because maybe it was too over sentimental or whichever way, but we'll discover that. So we're going to start with Johnny. We'll just take one and popcorn style and go around until we get to 3, and then we'll, for topic B, we'll talk about the Americana films that didn't hit. So Johnny, let's kick it to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to start this off with A League of Their Own.
Oh, okay.
Now, I won't say that this is one of my all-time favorite films or anything like that.
Okay.
Definitely one that really stood out for me growing up. You know, it's what 1992 is when it came out. Directed by Penny Marshall, who also did Big.
Yes, and was a regular on Laverne and Shirley,
Yeah.
the 70s sitcom.
Yeah. So, I like this film in particular for today, because I think there's quite a bit of Americana in this, just from the fact that not just because it's set in World War II, but you've got people coming together, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the best things. You're bringing people from all across the country together, women to bring together professional women's baseball because the men are all off fighting in the war. And giving these women an opportunity, and I love it because they're traveling across the country and getting all these new experiences themselves while providing the very thing that people need. You know, the entertainment, the sport, the spectacle. And I think that this was just a really excellent look at what it meant to those women on an individual level.
Yes.
You see them with their struggles, and it doesn't even matter that it's about baseball, to be honest.
Right.
Even though that's very Americana.
Yes, it is.
It's the human story that I think really captures what America is best at.
Yeah. No, I remember this because this is the film that taught me that there really was no crying in baseball. So I just made sure that I had to just suck it up. You know, when that ball hits you in the face, you're just not supposed to cry about that. You're supposed to just, shrug it off like, me no hurt. Me no hurt.
That's great. All right.
I don't know about that, man.
Pretty
sure I'd lose my cool exterior for a second or two.
Shed a tear and tell them you're shedding a tear for America.
That's it. We can fix that. Okay, Zach.
All right. So for me, for my first film, I chose National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh,
very good one.
Because if you were a kid in America, you know this story. Going across country, being packed in the family car, getting in that terrible family car, going across country and seeing all, some of the best and possibly some of the worst of America, going to go visit those weird relatives, going with those cousins that get you in trouble, being stuck with that terrible relative that you just hate. and then finally going to Wally World and having the overwrought dad who just wants to give his family the perfect vacation, so much to the point that he loses his mind. And of course it's directed. It's a Matty Simmons production, directed by Harold Ramis, screenplay by John Hughes. All guys who, within that National Lampoon house of film, like I said, this one is a real. It's a real just envelope of everything that they did. Because again, like I said, you've got Chevy Chase in a starring role, Beverly D'Angelo as the you've got Anthony Michael Hall as one of the kids. You've got just some of the icons of really fun American cinema in a really great, perfect American movie, because every American kid knows what it means to take that trip and what it means to go to Wally World and what it means to have utter disappointment at that trip, and then your father losing his mind at every possible point. Having that parent who loses their mind at any possible moment, the mom just being overrun, going, it's fine, stop, calm down. No, this is going to be perfect. And that's a very American ideal. And the fact that, no, it's got to be perfect because I know what's best.
Yes.
And so there it is right there.
That's right. It's right. When I saw it, I loved it in the terms that, speak in terms of cars again, you got to have the station wagon with the fake wood panels on the side. Yeah. That's what you got to have.
And of course, the hot girl. Yeah. There's always a hot girl, Christy Brinkley at the time, who was, that definitely defined that American beauty right there.
Sure did. So, sure did. That and the copper tone tan girl of those commercials.
There you go.
I love it. This is a great start already. So I always start from the bottom and go up. So I want you guys to stick around and see what it was that I picked number one. But at number 3 out of these, so these are my top 3. I went with a movie that came out in 1993 that we all can relate to when you're the new kid who moves into a new neighborhood. This film is called Sandlot. So when you're the new kid and you show up, the first thing you want to do is meet the other kids in the neighborhood and see, who am I going to play with? Who am I going to hang out with? And of course, in this movie, these kids, they all gather around. Here it is. And that's why baseball is Americana. It's about baseball. These kids get together because of the sport of baseball, but it's about the relationships. It's about being new and trying to go out and meet new friends. And then you have the friends that want to impress you and the people that want to act like they're the smartest in the room and all this stuff. And you have these kids just getting together. And then there's the baseball that is knocked over the fence. And there's this dog, and who's going to go over and get it, and then what the boys are deciding to do about that. But it's just good, fun, clean adventure. That's what it's about. When kids get together, they don't care what race you are and all this other stuff. They just want to go play. And all it is then is an argument as to what to play. But here it's just baseball, right? Once again, Americana popping up. But Sandlot, I love this. We get most of the famous quotes from this. You're killing me, Smalls, right? There's just so many things about this, right? Just like in the film you talked about, League of Their Own, there's no crying in baseball. So that's another piece of Americana. When it has quotable lines in it, or at least a scene that you can react out in front of with friends when you're hanging out at the bar, like you could from Vacation, any one of those scenes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a period film because it does take place in the 60s.
Yes.
But yeah, you're getting, like I said, a point in time in America where everything is not a television and video games. It's a point where you go out and play.
That's right.
And like I said, you're getting, those iconic scenes at the pool. You're getting those iconic scenes at the fair. You're getting and of course that face down with the dog and James Earl Jones as the neighbor. You're getting all those kind of great tropes that you had as a kid, all wrapped up into one really fun film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's a timeless film, regardless.
Oh my gosh, you can still watch that now; it doesn't get dated, and it's just like to what you were saying about the League of Their Own. Once again, the spirit of Americana, and that you can see here is the idea of being individual enough to explore and see what could be. Right, there's that part of Americana that's that as well that you have to see. The underpinnings is that let's explore what could this be. Right, doesn't mean that we always get there, but at least we're asking that question, and then we're at least willing to strike out and try to go do it in many different ways. And this is told in a great way. Johnny, how about you? What's another one?
Well, thank you for that segue, PJ. Because my next one is a probably slightly obscure film at this point.
Okay,
but one from my childhood that I'm dying to show my kids, which is Explorers.
Ooh.
This
A
one
unique
was
pick, but was good.
directed by Joe Dante, who also did Inner Space and
Okay.
some other great ones. Right?
Right.
Inner Space was phenomenal too. Great cast though, with Ethan Hawke as a kid. I mean, God, was he in some amazing films as a kid? Right? God, that kid, great actor. So Explorers, I love this one for Americana because these kids having these dreams, right, about a spaceship design. And he and his friends get together and they build this spaceship out of an amusement park ride, you know? So it's science fiction, but it's imagination and everything that makes being a kid great,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Their adventures and exploring the world that they live in and going out and you know, they meet aliens and all sorts of stuff. Is it real? Is it not? You know, who cares? It's fun.
Yes.
Some amazing comedy in it with the aliens. My God, you know, my dad was such a sucker for this movie when I was growing up. He was constantly quoting it. But I love the adventure and the exploration in this one. It's taking all of what our parents' generation dreamed about and making it real, right? Because there's things that, you know, we can come up with ideas, but we may not be able to make them happen.
Right.
We're stuck in old paradigms with old technologies and all sorts of other things, and we're pushing forward. But it's how do we transmit those things to our kids, to the next generation, so that they make it happen? And that's what I think this film really captures well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, again, it's a really fun film in the fact that, like I said, you get some great character designs in there. Robert Picardo as two of the aliens and an agent. It's fun. River Phoenix, you know,
God,
in a really kind of classic role. It's just a fun movie, and you know, there was so much cut from that film too. I would have
Really?
I think there's like a 2.5, 3 hour cut of the film. They wouldn't let it out. So there's a lot more that goes into it, like the drive-in. There's the reason why he's talking about a blue screen and a technical mat is because that's supposed to be Ethan Hawke's brother. There was a whole like they were going to go back up into space, and there was a whole like second film in there that pretty much got cut out.
Dang.
So
Wow.
yeah, but yeah, the story's great. That's one of those films that I watched as a kid over and over again.
Yeah.
Because you to go where no man has gone before. Yeah. It's a very cool thing.
Well, and it's key to point out too that film came out in 1985.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah.
very interesting about this is 1985 must have been the year for Americana, because a lot of the other movies on your list are from 85. Some from mine are from 85, and so 85. Something about that year, the directors, the writers were just focused on saying, okay, we've moved from some of the 70s ideas. Here's what it looks like in the 80s, and we're willing to articulate it and say it. And so, yeah, in 85 for sure, that year, man. And I'm just trying to not give away the spoilers, but you'll see at home, folks at home, that we're going to mention several of these, and some of these are just a couple months apart, and they came out. So 1985 might be one of the greatest years for exploring this particular topic of Americana.
No argument there. And to that point, I think it's fairly fascinating that, having grown up during that time and seeing these films when they came out versus much later films looking back at the 80s,
Yeah.
totally different perspective. They don't fit.
Well, one's trying to copy the other
80
one so hard.
Yeah,
right.
the 80s were very different from what everybody projects onto it now.
Right,
looking
but
backward.
Right, but think about what they were showing in the 80s. They were showing projections of the 60s, which weren't what our parents saw either.
This is very true.
I
but
mean, those films that were out at that time were the films being sold to our parents because they now have money and can take their kids to theaters.
Sure.
They're telling that story to that generation.
Sure.
You're jumping ahead of my number 3, man. Don't make me come over there.
Okay, Zach, what about you?
All right, so I'm a horror guy. I'm gonna throw a horror one on this one.
Shocker!
And I chose Friday the 13th. What is more American than summer camp? What's more American than what's out in the woods? What's more American than, hey, being a dumb teenager and doing what people tell you not to do? What happens? You get killed. So I mean, you
The boogeyman.
But I mean,
moves to the big screen.
But I mean, you get campers out in the woods doing, like I said, teenager things, and then suddenly something bad happens. Something went wrong a long time ago, and someone's going to pay for that. You get not only phenomenal kills and also one of the first on-screen appearances of Kevin Bacon, but also, like I said, you get kind of the ultimate in innocence wrought. And before you even get to Jason Voorhees, which, like I said, the whole Friday the 13th universe expands far beyond what it really should have. But like I said, at its base, it is, kids in a summer camp and something goes terribly wrong, and you get the creation of a monster. Which is, spoiler alert, when you get into Mrs. Voorhees, and then you get it later in Jason. You, like I said, this launches, like I said, it's very American in the fact that it launches the whole franchise of, something that we do well, which was the slasher film. It started a genre of film that spread worldwide in the psycho killer, in the one psycho killer monster and things like that, reducing the monster from like nuclear monsters and things like it to something human, something that's one guy killing a whole summer camp. But also, like I said, you're getting that all American teenager when doing the drugs or doing the alcohol or doing whatever, and here it comes right there. It's a really just wonderful American franchise being launched in 1980 with Sean Cunningham's Friday the 13th. And again, you're getting 124. The tagline is, I'm looking at the poster, a 24-hour nightmare of terror, and that's exactly what it is. It is a really bad 24 hours. So, like I said, it's the start of something wonderful in horror. And at this point, like I said, it really is a great. I could have gotten Nightmare, but like I said, because that's any street, anywhere, any town. But even that's based on a Japanese news story, and could have chosen The Hills Have Eyes. But again, we already did a road trip film. So, like I said, what's more American than summer camp? So
absolutely,
had to go with that.
That's right.
And was there a single day that we went to school that there wasn't somebody wearing a Friday the 13th T-shirt,
right,
or a sweater? Come on.
Yeah, no, it was.
It had an impact,
right? And of course, later on, you get the threat of Canada with the hockey mask. So we already know it's a threat. I lie awake at night hearing them sharpening their skates, planning to come and steal our cheese. It's fine. It's fine.
Hey, take off, you hoser!
No, we're not doing great Canadian films. We're doing American films today, sir.
I love it. I love it. Well, to go back to 1985, there was another movie that became a masterpiece. If you were in high school in the 80s, especially around this time, you remember a movie called The Breakfast Club. And this movie, you're talking about Molly Ringwald, Michael Anthony Hall, Ali Sheedy, Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason. And it's just a simple story shot in one location in the detention center of this school, where 5 youths from different parts, if you will, that are very different walks of life from each other, have to endure just this day of detention together.
Different families in America.
And what you would see. And so what was amazing about this is you get to see how how fragile the identity is when you're a teen, because you're just trying to figure out who you are. And so you're trying to grab onto the things that resonate with you. So you have the jocks, right? And then you have the academics, and then you have the nerds, and then you had Ali Sheedy playing the what today would be more like the black people wearing all black with and back then it was, I forgot what we used to call them. I guess the the Weirds or something like that. And today they've gone through every name that you can think of and what they were going to call that group. But here they all are, you know, 2 girls and 3 guys, and then of course the druggies. So you have Bender, right? So Judd Nelson's character, and so having them in a room together, and then seeing how hard they identify with the different clique that they think, and they think that they don't like each other, but being stuck in a room all day, they find how much they're actually a lot more alike, even though they've chosen to be the jock or the princess or the nerd or the, you know, or the weirdo or the bender, right? And so when you watch that film, you just start to go, I get them. I know what that's like. That's such a universal theme, even though here, Americanized, it's look at the style of dress, look at who we hang with. That's what's important, and our group's better than your group, which happens anywhere. But here, then you see how they come together, and then the kind of stuff that pulls them together. Once again, many different people in the United States, many different walks of life presented here. And then by the time the movie's over with, you're just like, this is great. The fact that some of them became friends, and some of them wanted to fight each other. Some of them did fight each other. And then others jumped in that you wouldn't think to protect that person did say things. And then people got to see things from the jock's perspective, the geek's perspective, the princess's perspective.
And
then,
all coming together to fight authority.
yes. And the one guy, if you grab the bull,
American.
there's more by the
You
horns,
mess
right?
with the bull, you're going to get the horns.
That's it. That's it.
Again, quotable films.
Yes.
Yeah, can we take a second because it's not a coincidence that this is another John Hughes film that pops
Correct.
up on this list.
Yes.
Because, like I said, John Hughes was kind of our look at American cinema in the 80s. Because, again, it was a look at America in the 80s.
Yes.
Like I said, there were a few films that kind of capture a time period so perfectly. The Breakfast Club is timeless.
Yes. It is.
Because of the universal themes, but it's still one day in the 80s. So again, like I said, John Hughes makes such great American films because, I mean, you've got Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you've got The Great Outdoors,
Pretty in Pink,
16 Candles, like I said, all these wonderful American
Animals Fire.
all these timeless and wonderful American films. It's perfectly classic, and it's just it speaks to us because it's what we identify with, not only in the time but also the emotion.
Yes, absolutely. And again, no digital products in this thing necessarily. It wasn't about being on social media, which most people can't even imagine a time where we don't have that. This film is made with a budget of $1 million, just $1 million. And that's because of, you know, mostly where they were shooting and then what these guys got paid. And then, of course, this thing went on to gross worldwide $51 million. 51 worldwide off of a budget of $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? So what did that say? That when it can go worldwide and that many people can go, I get what they're talking about there. Right? And so, yes, when you see all that, it's such a juggernaut, and you're so thankful. Like, I want to go watch the film again, even though I haven't seen it in a while, and I know I'll still be able to relate to it just because those themes. And it does take you right back to high school, and you did care whether you fit in or you didn't fit in, and then you wondered who you fit in with, and then if you saw the others down the hall, you might clash with them sometimes just because, you know, you're pent up with all this energy and your school's boring, but you have to be there, you think. And then you see these people and then, yeah, it's crazy. What about you, Johnny? What else would you put on this hits?
Wow. Yeah, back to 1985.
Yeah.
It's like we're playing Uno here. And we're
Right.
playing the same card over and over again. Back to 1985 with Back to the Future. I mean, you could nitpick little things in the film all day long, but this is purely about Americana, and the real beauty of this film is that teenagers, especially in the 80s, there was a very different mindset than there is today.
Sure.
But there was a huge challenge to authority in the 80s. And the wonderful thing here is that you take a teenager in 1985 and you give him a chance to go back and see his parents at his age, because he sees his parents as old and out of date, and they don't have a clue about what's cool or anything else. Because, man, the 80s were about what was cool, right? You get that with the beautiful black Toyota pickup that he's drooling over, and the girl. Come on, good Lord. And then you get to go back and see his parents, and the innocence, the veneer of the 1950s, you know, and how he kind of inserts himself into that. And he comes back and his parents are way cooler now because he's got a different perspective. And I love that look.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that perspective that your parents are people too, you know, they went through the same things we did, literally the exact same things. They're both struggling, you know. He gets told he's just too damn loud, right? You know, and then he goes back and definitely was too damn loud for them. But he was trying to be cool. His dad was trying to be cool, and then it works out.
Yeah,
It
and
just
DeLoreans
works out.
became cool again. So yeah,
Did they really?
for a little bit
they
of time. Yeah, of
That
course they
style,
have.
man. That was style in that time, sir.
A stainless steel car, you bet. Now we have stainless steel refrigerators and microwaves and stoves, and it all started with Back to the Future having a stainless steel car. No, I just put that together.
But still no flying cars yet.
That's right. That's
That's Back to the Future too, right?
Yeah.
Except at the end, Back to the Future one. No, you're right.
Very tail end.
Yeah.
well, we take it Elon Musk. He
Where's-
wasn't very. Yeah.
Where's my flying car?
Yeah.
Love it. What about you, KZ?
All right. So, for better or for Americana is for better or for worse, and I actually chose a for worse movie for my last one because I
That
chose,
was supposed to be the miss, right?
No. This is a big one.
Okay, let's
To
hear
Kill
it.
a Mockingbird.
Oh my God.
Because you go back, because I mean you're looking at a time in history where you're getting you have, like in Back to the Future, you have the good old days. Well, these are the not so good old days of the 1940s, and you're getting a look at the criminal justice system that's supposed to stand up for every man, and it doesn't. It betrays a man, a black man, and with poor people being overwrought and things like that, feeling that they were cheated and killing a black man out of rage. I mean, if also you're getting, like I said, this point of view from the perspective of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old girl. You're getting a look at an America that's really and truly scary, because I mean it is a frightening film. And it's an intense film, but like I said, you get a very American attorney in Atticus Finch, the ideal of the American attorney, wanting to stand up for what's right, stand up and give an American man his day in court and his proper justice, and he proves his case, but he still loses. And even though he tried, after Tom is killed, which that phenomenal performance from Brock Peters just in that movie is spectacular. But you get a really raw American story, and you get that here in America, justice doesn't always work, even though it should.
Wow.
And like I said, I picked this one because it is a particularly American story. I mean, justice is justice everywhere, but in this particular story, this is our American system, and the American system that falls down and fails. It fails spectacularly, but it's so emotional, and the film is just rich and beautiful. And like I said, you have in the subplot, you have the boogeyman story, and then you see the real boogeyman. You see fake monsters and real monsters, and what the real monster is, the angry American. So you get, like I said, for better or for worse, this is one of the worst pictures of America, but it's so rich in the American story. And like I said, I think it's one of those films that changes lives when you see it. It's a film that changes perspectives when you see it. I mean, it is one of those films that it's on a list of films you should see before you're 14 because of, like I said, it shows you that you should stand up for justice even when everything is against you. And like I said, it's why I picked this film, because it is a uniquely rich American story.
Yeah, it is, and you could make the argument that the reason why all the other films are so fantasyful that we've already listed is because of the stark reality of what the other side.
There it is.
Right? So that's why you get the fantasy of the 70s and you get the fantasy of the 80s, because if we look at the reality of what was still going on. It's too much for people to take, so they'd rather just, as today, people would rather just put on their VR goggles and just step away from everything that's going on. But that doesn't change things.
Right.
You know, history's gonna be written and built by the people who are willing to step out there and risk something, right? So we have a long list of that, and then it's crazy because your point. I love that you brought that up, because people wouldn't think of it as Americana film, but it absolutely is.
Yeah, it totally is. It is a great American story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it is. Well, my number one, I'm glad you still stuck around, fans that are still out there watching. My number one is, if I'm going to go big, I have to go big with this one. And how about, if Americana is about summer blockbusters, how about the first one? 1975, Jaws.
Yep.
Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. That's all you have to hear is the first key notes. And now you know exactly what you're watching, right? And then what you love about this is it's summertime. We're out at the beach, at the lake, and what's the boogeyman there? The boogeyman there is the thought of that deep, deep, deep water where you can't see below. Could there be something out there? And so playing on that psychological fear and making life with a mechanical shark that didn't work most of the time, but still, with all the technical problems they had, produced this great film about the killer shark that unleashes chaos on this particular beach community, which, you know, if you live in California, if you live on the coast, if you live by water, if you love to be in water spots, vacations, rather than going up in the mountains or something like that, this is a movie you thought about when you got into some strange water that you maybe don't know, or maybe you may have even got online to check and see if it's shark infested or something like that, because this movie made you think about that a lot. And then, of course, because of it being so huge, I mean, this movie, it's incredible, right? So it was made with a budget of $7 million, right? And ended up grossing worldwide $471 million, okay? So this is, of course, it's been released several times, adding to this figure. But the fact that going to the beach, just swimming, just sunning, just trying to do the outdoorsy things, getting your vitamin D from the sun, just a few feet from you could be lurking, right? And you just couldn't get that out of your head. So John Williams does this score. We know John Williams from doing Star Wars, from doing the Magnificent Seven, from doing Indiana Jones. Here he is, before you even know who he is, breaking big in 1975, because Star Wars didn't come out until 77, and then you have the rest of those coming out after that. Here he is already with just a simple tone, just two tones like this, and then speeding it up. So Jaws just did amazing things for people. I know there was the little game that they made, so it crossed over. We're going to talk about crossovers later. There was a toy shark that you had to try to pull things out of it before it shuts on your little lever that you're used to pull it out. I mean, when you think about blockbusters, this has exactly that. And when you talk about waiting for summer to get here, and because summer is when you love to go do your Americana things, this movie made you go, I'm ready to go. But just in case, let me make sure I bring some shark bait or something, you know, or make sure I don't get too far out so I can yell if I find myself in trouble. You had to think about it while at the same time enjoying summer. It's wonderful. It's great.
And again, you've got a film told by a great American storyteller, Steven Spielberg.
Yes, sir.
You know, pushing forth, like I said, one of the biggest movies of all time. But also, it's a very American thing, and the fact that I think it kind of speaks to the pandemic, because they said, no, this beach will open even though there's a threat going out there. Mm-hmm. You have the mayor that says, no, we can't ruin the tourism industry. We're fine. You tell them we're fine.
Yes.
And no, we're
not at all.
We're not fine.
Right?
We're not
Richard
fine.
Dreyfuss in this movie, right? You love Roy Schneider playing Brody here.
Yes.
You have Peter Benchley playing that interviewer that was doing most of that piece, and Murray Hamilton as the mayor, and Lorraine Gary was playing Ellen Brody, the wife. And so you had some people.
What was it? Richard Shaw?
What's that?
Robert Shaw.
That's
Robert
right,
Shaw. So-
It's Quint, yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
In this. And these aren't maybe necessarily people that a lot of people heard of early on.
Right.
But once this movie came out, you knew who Richard Dreyfuss was, and Roy Schneider and Robert Shaw and Lorraine Gary and the rest of them pretty quickly. Yeah. And then the other piece to this was that Jaws was one of those films also. It's a horror film that was a summer blockbuster. Mm-hmm. And it was the first big blockbuster was a horror film. So it speaks to your Friday the 13th thing that you were mentioning earlier, right? So the very first summer blockbuster film is not a space fantasy. It's not a Will Smith vehicle. It actually was a horror adventure film, is what it's slated as in the Congress of Video Films in terms of what genre is. So how about that? The very first big blockbuster was that mix of adventure but also horror.
Yep.
And for that, you can do a lot with that. So what about you? All you out there watching, did we miss some? I'm pretty sure you had some on your list.
Yeah, we're not there yet. 'Cause now we got to.
That's right.
Now we got to get into. We got to get into that last segment.
That's right. Thank you. I
I-
almost was thinking.
I'm not going to let you end the show. No.
Not on a high. We have to get a miss in here. So here it comes. So now, ladies and gentlemen, topic 2, if you will, the subset. How about the Americana films that didn't land as well? Right. So let's look at that. The misses in terms of Americana. So Johnny.
I picked one that is really pretty horrific for me, and that is Spring Breakers. I mean, it's pretty awful to watch in the first place, but it is the dark underbelly of Americana, you know, when everybody is looking to enjoy spring and summer and enjoy all the pleasures that we're discussing, right? Baseball and the beach and everything else. These girls, these 4 girls, these young girls, decide to commit a robbery to fund their vacation and get into drugs and all sorts of things. And they're so naive that they are the perfect attractor for all these predators, you know, that take advantage of them. And things just go horribly wrong, you know? So instead of looking at this as, you know, everybody just going out and having a good time, they're trying to force it instead of just enjoying what comes naturally. And so I think that takes a look at a small section of people that just don't enjoy what comes naturally, and they want more, and they're seeking adventure and don't know how to do things in a healthy way, I'll say.
Okay.
So I think this one is kind of an ugly film. It's not meant to be enjoyed, I don't think.
It's a Harmony Korine film, which
there's nothing pleasurable.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that every Harmony Korine film makes you feel like you got to take a shower afterwards.
Yeah.
It is. His films are hard to watch because they're American portrayals, but good God, they're a terrible American portrayal.
Yeah. Yeah. So please, for the love of God, don't act this movie out.
Do not try this at home, kids.
Yeah.
Four entitled girls getting mixed up with the drug dealers. Yeah, played by James Franco. Also another.
Oh my God, also he's great.
Now, not only James Franco, but James Franco in white guy dreadlocks. It's just no. When you see that coming, no.
Yeah.
Step away from the vehicle. Okay. How about you, Kazak?
Oh well. I'm so glad I get to talk about this one because it just makes me happy to absolutely hate on this film, and it's not a surprise that it's another Robert Zemeckis film. We talked Back to the Future, which is that wonderful, great American film. Well, now I get to talk about everything I hate about American film, and that is Forrest frickin' Gump.
Forrest Gump.
God,
He said,
at first glance, when you watch it on the screen the first time, it's an impressive film. It's done well. That being said, it is everything I hate about American film. Every American trope of the simple man looking into every possible aspect. The tact on friendships, the tact on interracial friendship, and possibly the most toxic relationship ever captured on camera. Everything about the film that you're supposed to love is just dreadful. I mean, you have just this overwrought tug of the heartstrings story about not necessarily a mentally deficient man, but just a slow, simple man. And I mean, just looking into every aspect and, just retelling and ruining history. And just, I can't stand this film anymore. Because I mean, it has those those sweeping pans when he's, when he's running and things like that. And you have, like I said, the intimate things, but the intimate scenes between him and Robin Wright Penn. Tom Hanks being lovably dumb. I can't stand this film. It has become the icon of everything I hate about American cinema. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, who is in himself an impressive filmmaker, but the impression that when you watch a film, it's just like this is trying so hard to tug at you. And like I said, simply, like I said, it's a simple film. It's a simple story, it's a simple man, and a simple film, but it's so simple that it's just unenjoyable. I mean, when I watched the first one, I'm like, okay, that was impressive, but there's something that I don't like about this. And as I watch it, a couple times more, because again, I gave it a second, third chance. It's just like, I'm just annoyed by how terrible this film is, because it's a film that's meant to be great, and it's terrible. And it's that American ideal, like, okay, we know how to get in your heartstrings, we know how to get at you, we know how to reach right into your psyche and pull on every taste bud. It's like being scientifically. It's like how McDonald's scientifically analyzes every piece of their food to make it hit and enjoy every taste bud. That's exactly what this film does. And like I said, if people who watch this film, if you really liked it, it's because it hit every taste bud. It was engineered to scientifically make you enjoy every moment. And it's just terrible. It's just terrible. No.
So would you say Robert Zemeckis is like a box of chocolates?
Now I'm coming over there. That's it. Up at the table. We're done.
Needle goes across the record. Bedlam is breaking out on the film crew. Bedlam.
Oh.
That's it. We're done.
Well, because of this, you've given me a thought, as if I needed extra input to think. But I think we have another theme that we need to do, which is popular movies that are overrated.
Yeah.
Hey, that sounds like another topic we'll do. So hang in there, film fans, because we will do that for you. We'll talk about those films that are so popular, but yet at the same time we think they're overrated and maybe don't deserve all that hype. So yeah, this is kind of a variant of that. I like that.
PJ, get a little more on that mic. I'm having a little trouble picking it.
Yep.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. All right. So then I picked one as well. Again, it's the thought, just because a movie might be popular, just because critics might like it, doesn't mean necessarily that's a good film. And how you know that is do the litmus test on it, because you can always like a movie. We talked about earlier when it first came out, and then when you watch it 20 or 30 years later, you realize, oh, wow, how did I not see that? And some movies age well, some don't. But the movie I'm talking about came out in 1989. It's a Kevin Costner vehicle. It was directed by Phil Alden Robinson, and stars Kevin Costner, Amy Madigan, Gabby Hoffman, and Ray Liotta, which is really interesting that he's casted in this film. And this is a movie called Field of Dreams. Now, again, Americana, because here it is, it's baseball. And again, it's the guy with the field, and he's a farmer, and he's a Midwesterner, and this sort of thing. And so now all of a sudden, besides the crazy casting of Ray Liotta, who would do better in something like Goodfellas, but he's playing a kind of the same character in a sense. And it's like, why would a Midwesterner have a New York sounding accent and sound like he's part of the mob? But I guess they didn't worry about that. But aside from all that,
he's from Chicago,
right? Yeah, mobster, right? And it's like, okay, so you have this film that you're trying to say, here's the magic of it, right? The magic of this film is that, out there in the cornfield, something is saying, if you build it, they will come, which we all know is liar. That's not true at all. That doesn't. How many businesses just built something without a business plan, saying, well, if you just make them cookies everybody will buy those over Chips Ahoy and everything else, and then they fail. Like most businesses fail. So this is bad advice to begin with. But the magical connection it's trying to make with the field and the lore of baseball. Then you have a team that was embroiled in some issues, Black Sox, right? And then you have James Earl Jones again. He has to be like the token black guy that's in this. And it's talking about a time in baseball where black people weren't even allowed to play, but he's somehow there somehow. He's casted in this to try to give this voice. I'm like, how did you miss that tone on this just to try to tell this bigger picture? If you build it, they'll come, and then all this great stuff happens. I'm like looking at this going, no, that's a lie. That's almost that thing of you just do anything and you can just be great at it. And it's like, no, it takes a lot to be great at anything. Just
Ain't
ask
that
Michael
America?
Jordan, right? Exactly, right? And so here you go. And so none of this is believable, right? And the only thing that's heartwarming about it is, okay, yeah, he gets to play catch with his dad one last time. Sure. But the sentimentality is so drawn out and so overdone here that after a while you're just going, dude, this isn't better than The Sandlot, and it covered baseball way better and gave us connections of people and helped us see different cultures and things like this, and then how we deal with dread. And this just kind of wanted to mysticize it, and just, if you're hearing voices, that's good. So it's okay. So I just, voices tell me, you don't need to get a vaccination. Oh, crap, or you don't need to wear a mask. Oh, I guess that's my field of dreams here. I can't do it because the voice is telling me that I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that and I shouldn't. But that you would build a whole movie around this supposedly ethereal, it's like good things will just naturally happen because you want them to.
Because you're American.
And you're an American, and you have a cornfield, and you're going to build a baseball diamond in a cornfield, because what would you do with the parking, and where would people go, and if you were really going to... No.
It's like the film version of Enya.
Right. Yes. And so I just couldn't believe the audacity of this film. Now, here's the thing. That year in the Academy Awards in '89, I'm glad, because it got nominated for three different categories in that year. And the year of the film, that film that won in '89 was Driving Miss Daisy. So thank God they didn't go that route. But then again, Driving Miss Daisy wasn't that great either. So I think in '89 we really had some very specious choices for what we thought was great. But the fact that this movie could get 3 nominations, and it's like, I dare anyone to go back and watch it now and see if you get the same ooey gooey, if that sentimentality still works, knowing what you know now about how things have been exposed and what things are. And then, of course, could there have been a better way to tell the story? To me, for Kevin Costner, because we know he did a bunch of baseball movies, the best one is Bull Durham. That's the better film out of his when he did those. But Field of Dreams?
Yeah.
Go watch this film with your dad. No, I'd rather go play catch with my dad. I don't need this.
Yes. So I would just say Field of Dreams. I know what you were trying to do, but it's vacuous. It speaks to absolutely no one while trying to talk to everyone at the same time.
Yeah, at the end of the '80s, I think it was pretty much the end of big film. I mean, because at that point we're right at the precipice of, okay, we've had enough of all these inauthentic storytelling, rape Watt fantasies and things like that, with the same actors doing it, telling us the same schlock over and over again. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a breaking point with this film. Because I absolutely can't stand Kevin Costner to this day. So
yeah, I can see how you could have heartburn from that. I did after watching this film. I was quickly looking for something to help me with that, because this film actually gave me heartburn to try to watch it again. I just couldn't suffer through it again. And when I first saw it, I thought it was okay. I thought, okay, cool. The guy wanted to play, gets to play catch with his dad, and his dad's gone. That's kind of cool. But watching it, rewatching it, I was like, this is trash. So what about you? Let me say it now. What about you out there? You've seen our list now. What kind of films would you say were amiss, that were basically misprescribing what Americana really should be or is, and then get some kind of effort like this? Or what was your greatest hits that you thought were just typically a solid American film? We gave you just a few, but what were yours? So comment that, and I'll meet you in the comments. We'll meet you in the comments section and let you know our thoughts. And so with that, who are you giving a shout out to, Johnny?
Well, before I make like a tree and get out of here, my shout out goes to my dad, who introduced me to some really awesome films.
Nice. Super nice. Okay, Zach?
We'll go ahead and shout out everyone on DallasOnAir.com. Do tune us in all the time. There's so much content on the site. You can always check out our alternate Sunday shows, which of course the Rancor Pit and Isle of Toys, hosted by Cole Houston. Check out Fan and Life with Eddie Medina, and also his show with other show with his wife, Figments, the Unexplained Mysteries podcast. Check out Best for Business. Check out Say Something. Check out all the stuff that we do on the station, because again, there's something for everyone here. So do check out DallasOnAir.com. Big ups to Jansen and Kat, who had just bought their house. Congratulations to you guys. And of course, thank you for giving us a home here every Sunday right here on DallasOnAir.com.
That's right. So I am going to shout out to some familiar names that you hear almost every time, but I still appreciate them. So I want to give that shout out to Lauren Wiedauer and Sean Presley, Tristan Fraser, Brandy and Barry Austin. There are a couple that loves movies, and I've done some serious movie watching with them. So I miss you guys. We have to do this again. Harry Thomas, who's also a YouTuber out there, he checks in on the station, so we love that you do that. Trey Ross, Michael Paul, Daniel Meza, Mad Mel, Eddie Medina, Cole Houston, Stephanie Crane, Scott Laney, and Sandra. So that's it for this time. So we will be back. Next time you see us, it will be after the 4th of July. So you'll be thinking a lot about Americana. You'll be taking a lot of Americana this coming week. But we'll be back July 11th. Mark that down. And July 25th. And so when you come back and see us July 11th, we will compare originals versus remakes. That's what you'll see then. So until then, this is the Fulfillment Crew, and we're telling you we're out of here.
Do something American. Go watch a film.
There, yes, watch a film. Do an American thing in a theater.
America.
Right.
Marco.
Yeah.